Hi, I'm John Phillips from 460. SSI represents a way of thinking about identity that will help us solve many of the problems we will otherwise stumble over or fail miserably at in the digital world. So that the problems we have in identity are we've taken an old way of thinking from an original digital way of thinking, and we've extrapolated it far too many times. And it now has a lot of baggage and a lot of legacy issues. And as we solve those issues, we're going to have significant problems from a privacy point of view and from a security point of view. There's two really important things to think about with SSI and identity. One is historically, or even now as an individual, you will think of yourself by the way others think of you. You have a kind of relationship to others which helps to define you. You may be a father of a child, you may be the child of a parent, you may be a member of a club, and so on. So there's a sort of social dynamic to this. That's been true for ever since where human beings are social beings. And we've, over time, recognized that in various ways. So the first documented sort of passport, if you want to call it that, was many, many hundreds of years ago by King Xerxes from Greece, 450 BC. And he gave one of his subjects a passport to travel. So we can recognize the relationship that you have with others formally by a document. And we used to do that for hundreds and thousands of years. Until very recently, we started giving people identities that are digital, and those identities tend to be fixed. SSI gives us a way of looking at identity that is actually going to be very, very familiar to the way we think and act and behave as human beings. By which I mean we are typically in a situation of in a social role of being a person as a parent or as a child or as a player in a soccer team or as a fan of a club. And each of these roles, we have a particular kind of identity, and we use that identity in that role. When we look at the way digital identity works, too often it gives us a singular identity, one sort of tag, which we have to offer up to the person receiving it, who then looks up a list of things that we're allowed to do. So what we really need to have is a way of replicating the normal social norms, and in fact the normal administrative bureaucracy kind of norms, the way governments work and the way authority works. If we can mimic that in a truthful, authentic way digitally, we're going to have a much better world than we risk falling into at the moment. The world we risk falling into is one of singular identifiers that we are allocated, and then effectively an authority decides what we're allowed to do. So our choice is then limited. We have no choice. We have one identity. The way we look at identity, the way we thought about identity, has evolved over millennia, many thousands of years. One way, it's very, very simple. We grow up as children. We experience the relations we have with perhaps parents or others around us. And we've formed relationships, and we're known by those people. And we, in a sense, reflect from them our own identity. We get a sense of ourselves. We travel, we get a sense of country, we get a sense of language. And those things form part of what we think of as our identity, who I am, what I'm about, what I identify as. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is that some of those things about identity are really important for us in terms of how we are able to function in society. So do I have a driving license? So can I drive a car? Am I qualified to do this piece of work? How can I prove this? Can I travel? Do I have a passport? So some of the things we accumulate as part of our identity become very, very important to how we can actually participate as people in a group or in society. Now, what's happening over the last several decades really has been an increasing reliance on digital forms of doing things. So we've had the rise of the internet, we've had increasing reliance on smartphones and social media constructs, all of which have had to find a way to solve a very difficult problem, which is how do I know who's at the other end of this line, of this internet connection, on the other end of this phone, when I can't see them and I can't touch them and I can't sort of sense them in any way other than this digital connection. So that's often taken back to the very early New York Times cartoon about no one on the internet knows you're a dog. It's that kind of problem. How do I know this is a real person? That problem's actually got more and more difficult as digital sort of technologies have become more advanced. So it's now quite possible to pretend to be a person through software, to have algorithms to do things. So the idea of digital identity is becoming essential to the way we can function as a society going forward. So that's been recognized for a while. We know there are some issues with the way we do things. So people are trying to solve this problem. And the issue is they've been solving the problem in the wrong way. They've been solving the problem by looking at more and more rigorous ways to identify an individual. That means if I walk into a cafe and I want to order a coffee, instead of the barista just wanting to know what coffee I'm wanting to order and that I'm going to pay, they need to know who I am before I can even order my coffee. So this idea of identifying myself before I do something is kind of built into almost every one of the digital identity models that we currently use. And that's true for government systems, it's true for financial systems, it's true for social media systems. You identify yourself and then you can do things. Now, the problem with that model is that that's not the way we normally behave. And for all of us, we have more than one identity that we might draw upon. By that I mean, if I happen to like cycling. So if I'm on my bicycle, I'm a cyclist. If I'm stopping at a cafe, I'm a coffee drinker, I like a particular kind of coffee. If I'm lucky enough to have children, so I'm a father. And I've been, and in fact, still a child of my parents. So I have many different identities which are relevant in different contexts. There's not just one single identity.